Your brain is a multitasking powerhouse. Two of its most important functions involve working memory and long-term memory. Understanding how these functions work together can change your perspective of learning for the better. This week's high card is about how your memory works to absorb knowledge and store that knowledge efficiently. This episode is you and your brain learning together, and you are watching Playing the Ace. Let's start by defining the difference between working memory and the long-term memory.
Working memory, as defined by Daniel Sanford, is comprised of transitory information, whether visual, verbal, or auditory. This information comes in and is processed and manipulated in the moment through integrations, processing, and problem solving.
Working memory interfaces with the world. It is a type of gateway for knowledge because our working memory plays an active role in determining how new knowledge is integrated with existing knowledge.
When we learn, we initially bring the information into our working memory, especially during class time or when completing homework assignments. How we use our working memory determines whether information moves into our long-term memory. Long-term memory functions through what is known as schema. Information and knowledge do not free float in our minds. We retain knowledge through schema. Daniel Sanford writes that a schema is everything you know about something and all of the connections among that knowledge.
Yes, I like to think of schema as webs of knowledge. We connect old information to new information. Through this process, the web becomes stronger and more complex.
Think of it like this. When we learn to drive a car, that action moves from working memory to long-term memory through those 60-plus hours of required driving before the test. So when we get into a car, our routine is triggered. Seatbelt, ignition key, brake, gear, drive. We recall how to start the engine and make the car go or stop. In fact, if we drive to the same place every day, we automatically drive there without ever even thinking about it.
Yes. And another example is math. When we learn to add and subtract, we store that process into our long-term memory, especially the more we practice it. And we use it all the time without ever even considering it math. When we plan a party and determine numbers of guests, amounts of food, costs, all of those things. We use addition and subtraction without ever thinking about it as math. It's just integrated into our lives.
In school, when we learn to solve more complex math problems, we rely on the ingrained knowledge of addition and subtraction. Sometimes we get nervous about math even when we don't need to because we already know a step in solving the problem. This math example brings up another important point about long-term memory.
Processing information in various ways allows it to attach to schema and to move, often through smaller pieces, into our long-term memory. Frequently accessing the same knowledge through problem solving, discussion, review, analysis, and writing indicates its significance and importance to our brain.
Every time a schema is activated, it becomes stronger. Learning is the process of adding complexity to a schema.
As you process information through learning, repeated exposure, and personal connections, that information becomes more easily recalled and accessed. It becomes knowledge or the stuff that you just know. It comes automatically. Knowing how schema works demonstrates the importance of moving knowledge from our working memory into our long-term memory.
How we interact with our coursework and how often we interact with it relate directly to our ability to store that knowledge in long-term memory and eventually recall it for another course or similar task.
So after all of that, what does it all mean?
Good question.
If you think back to previous episodes where we talked about study habits, strategies for preparing for tests, everything that we have been covering so far in our last episodes, it's all connected to essentially, like the title of this episode says, how you and your brain learn. As always, if you have something you want to share, show us your hand. Email us at writing@olusa.edu. You can also check out our Instagram at @olu_ace, where we'll post announcements and any new content. Thank you for watching Playing the Ace. New episodes are every Tuesday, so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our social media. Wear your mask, vote, and spread some kindness. And as always, we leave you with our classic catchphrase: don't gamble with your academic success.
Playing the Ace is a new web series from ALU's Academic Center for Excellence. Every week, we will be talking about elements and strategies that can help you develop as a learner. Join us and enhance your learning experience.